Hi, Adam.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, my name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. First off, thank you very much for saying yes to be interviewed today. And also, it's a bit early for you, 8:30 a.m. and it's 8:30 p.m. for me. But thank you to technology. We can make this happen. And also, you might be wondering why I reached out because my podcast talks a lot about self-worth. I and your profile talks a lot about marketing. But I think somehow it's interconnected. And we're gonna discover that some of the aspect of that today. Adam, I would like to read a bit of an introduction for our listeners today, and then we can get right into it.
Sounds good.
Hello, everyone. We have Adam Sinkus here with us. Once upon a time in the dynamic business realm, Adam Sinkus, managing partner of A Purpose Partnership, led an organization that defied conventional agencies through purpose, partnership, and hands-on ethos, giving birth to the anti-agency concept. With over a decade of experience in marketing, operations, customer journeys, and training, Adam's journey defied typical executive norms, rooted in a passion for problem solving and mastery in the delicate balance of strategy and execution. His organization thrived on genuine relationships, viewing clients as true partners. In sectors like tech, health insurance, transportation, and logistics, Adam also collaborated with industry giants, honing skills and cultivating a profound love for aiding companies in standing out through marketing and operational excellence. His belief was clear: success wasn't a top-down directive, but definitely a collaborative effort forged in the trenches with the team. Wow. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks so much for having me.
Let's unpack that. Well, but before that, can you share with us what was it like growing up as Adam Sinkus?
Um, I grew up in the Midwest in the United States, and so I spent winters in the snow skiing and summers playing golf, and it was good, but like every kid, I did a lot of stupid things and learned a lot of lessons
We all
along the
did. All right. So, I guess I don't want to go into it directly, but what made you? What happened in your career?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've worked in the call center industry for a long, long time, and if you've ever worked in a call center, you know this already. But for those that haven't, it's a very, very brutal industry. You learn a lot about yourself, I think, as a person, from getting abused by customers to to some
Getting abused by
challenge.
your management
Yeah,
themselves.
that too, right? So some challenging leadership opportunities as well, because in the call center industry, and like a lot of industries, it's we take the best performer and we make them a leader, and they're not always the best leader. They're just the best at doing whatever task it is. And so through that, you have done leadership development. I've done leadership coaching, ran training teams and training departments, and really focused on how do we step back and become people centric, and really make people want to come to work and have a blast. And so a few years ago, I made the shift into the marketing space, and what we realized in the marketing space is there's a lot of similarities, right? Different outcomes and different services offered, but you when you work with a marketing agency, a lot of time what happens is the CEO or the sales lead or account execs come sell you this really shiny package, and and then they pass it off to a team and hopes that team can actually execute on what they promised and sold. And so you know I've spent so much time around what I call false promise leadership that it's really shifted the way I think about how we do business with people.
I love that because I truly believe we are all in the people's business, and no matter you say you're working, it's still the hard part is dealing with people. The work is just the work. You can get anybody to do it, but it's the people because people they they have emotions with them. They have their own baggages from home, and you got to deal with a lot of those complexities in the workplace. Of course, we all say, you leave your problems at home the moment you step into the office, but oftentimes it's not like that, right? And relationship is something that I value myself. Oh, and therefore I would like to ask, because since you're in this space for a while now, personal branding. Why should someone have their personal branding?
Yeah, so I think this is interesting, right? We're in an online world, and everything we do, from trying to apply for jobs to talking to our family and friends to, in my case, doing a whole lot of business across the country and really across the world, um, says that we are putting ourselves out there, right? And so there's a lot of stuff we write, we post, we see that is all putting out a personal brand for us, whether we control, whether we think about it or not. And so personal branding is important because when we do it with intentionality, we can really build solid connections with people. We can improve our stance and opportunity for jobs, for bringing in new clients, for doing business with people. So, I always liken it to, I see a lot of small business owners make one single mistake, right? They put all these very controversial, very strong, opinionated political posts on their
Message.
page, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, that's great. And I totally understand that you want to stand up for what you believe in, and that is awesome. But understand that that message now has alienated 50% of your customer base, because 50% of people don't believe that way. Right. And so that's where personal branding comes in.
Okay, I do have a question though. So, how do we, what is the balance, or what is your take on, trying to send the notion that, okay, this is my business, or no, I have a brand and this is what I want to portray, and that has to be aligned with the organization, the business that I'm in, for example. But also, how do I stay true to myself, being authentic? And that could, that's a very fine line.
It is. It is. Definitely, right? And so I always look at it this way, right? So number one is post positive, be positive, right? So I think about this in the mindset of, I can put out my opinions on things. So that's totally okay. That's part of our authentic brand.
Mm.
But I need to do it in a constructive way, instead of a destructive way. And what I mean by that is simply, instead of saying, you're wrong because you believe this thing, which is what a lot,
Uh,
right? Or
mhm.
instead, I'm going to say, I might ask a question about it and start genuine discussion around it as a strategy, right? That shows, I can still put in my own personal beliefs through the discussion, but that shows that I'm willing to listen to the other side, which now makes it a very positive experience, right? Because at the end of the day, people want one thing: they want to be heard and they want their opinions to be validated. And so,
Mhm.
you know, that just by changing that approach to, a question or a positive spin on, on the issues that are important to you, then, that's how we get there, right?
Mm.
And that's how we build that positive brand.
Yeah, I see a lot of influencers online, or especially over on LinkedIn. They post something, and then at the end of it, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, that's a clever way to mitigate or stay on neutral ground.
But I think the other thing that's interesting, right, is there's also a time and place to have strong opinions and be
That's
negative
right.
and
Mm.
and be direct, right? One of the big things or places that I see this as being a value, right, is when you have proof, right? When you have researched proof that says
Mm.
that an opinion is blatantly wrong, right? We
Mm.
can still be polite in how we approach it, but, misinformation is a dangerous thing, and there's so much of it on the internet, that we
Yeah.
have to we have to protect ourselves from that. And if you're part of that conversation, protecting yourself from that and protecting others that you know around you from that becomes a positive experience.
Now, my next question: how do we sift through this noise and potentially misleading information?
So, that's a great question, right? Number one is fact check, fact check, fact check, fact check,
Fact check, fact check.
right?
Oof.
Anytime somebody posts something that I'm like, this sounds like it could be credible, sounds like it could be true, I go find the information. And it doesn't take long. It takes a Google search, right? Whether you take the title of that article or synthesize, quick thought on what that article is, dump that into a Google search and go find sources, right? When I look at those sources, I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for number one, what is the source? Are they a valid source, right? First and foremost, right? Tabloids are a bad place to get your information from because they spin stories that in ways that aren't always true or representative of the actual facts. But like somebody like New York Times probably has done their research, right? So, the other thing I'm going to look at, does the articles or articles that I read have built-in fact check in it, right? Did they source information from different places, whether it be experts, whether it be other sources? Where did that information that they got come from? Is it verifiable, right? Because a lot of times you'll see in like small media, like local news stations, will things about things that they see on Facebook and never really check to make sure that it's like true. So they don't really have any fact check built into that. So I can't say that that's a credible source just because they're a news outlet. No, they just looked and went, oh, here's a hot topic on Facebook this week. We're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And then, I think the other thing is we can always spin that to posting our opinions on it as well in a constructive manner, right? Hey, I looked into this and this is what I found. What do you think? Right? Here's, I drop sources all the time. I'm like, here's the source. I found this information. I thought it was really interesting about this. Here's the source, and give people an opportunity to research and read. When in doubt,
Yes, sorry. Yes, you were saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say when in doubt, if you're like, I don't even know, like, don't share it, just don't get involved.
Yeah. I think that's the best way until you're really sure or it's verified, at least with some sources, and then only you click share. Or also, if you have limited knowledge about that subject or topics, just refrain until you're really sure. And also I may go off tangent here a little bit. It's like I think the people who are most vulnerable to this misinformation, I don't know, at least this is what I am seeing, the my parents' generation, which is the baby boomers. I see my dad. Okay, so just to share, my dad he works at 60 plus, and he's adoption into Facebook was just maybe actively on Facebook probably 6-7 years ago, and then now of course the adoption rate is high now. So I've been seeing him sending reels to our group family messages, and I'm like, when I read it, I'm like, Dad, you have to be careful about this. And my mom too. So they're saying, okay, especially like fraud, right? Fraud attempts and banking. And I'm like, you guys have to just be very careful about this. But somehow they perceive it as true immediately, and that's dangerous. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have that as well in the US? Like, do you guys experience that? I'm pretty sure.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, so it comes down to how generations consumed media, right? When the boomers and Gen X, when they consumed media, it all came from printed sources. and the likelihood that a printed source is going to put out, outside of known farce magazines and sources, right? They're going to put out truthful and factual information. And so, you know, because they're so used to consuming media that way, now it comes to the
Yeah.
internet. They're like, oh, well, it's on the internet, so it must be true,
Must be
right?
true. Yes. Oh, I
So,
feel.
for the older generations, kind of my number one my number one advice is, if it seems too good to be true, or it's asking you to provide personal information, just don't mess with it. Don't do it. Don't use it. This is the form of, like, those surveys. Like, they're like, yeah, I've done 25 of these 30 things. Write down your answers below, right? Copy and paste this and write down your answers below. I'm sure you've seen
Mm,
those.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what they do is they put a bunch of irrelevant questions in there, and then they sneak in about 5 or 6
Wow.
questions that are typically on password reset.
Personal data. Yeah.
Yep. And so they're social engineering your personal data out of you to get potential password reset. And then it's
Mm,
not hard to go from, like, a Facebook ID or an Instagram ID or even a LinkedIn ID back to back to your accounts, right?
mm,
Just takes a little bit of backtracking and finding an email address, and then they have web scrapers that take care of the rest. So there's all kinds of technology out there that makes this very, very easy. So, those are social engineering attempts. They're trying to get you to provide information in what seems like a very non-threatening way, but it's actually, you're just spoon feeding them what they need to go take over your accounts.
yeah. So I asked them, refrain from clicking any links. Just refrain. I mean, unless it's the legit portal. Adam, maybe we can go back to basics. Like I mentioned, my podcast talks a lot about self-worth, and I like to tie it to the making or breaking of their personal brand. Which could be online and even offline. So how can someone build their personal brand online and offline?
Yeah. So, I think we need to be intentional, right? So that's number one. When we start to get intentional about who we are and what image we're putting out there, we can then design it. And that's important because, there's online reel, right? We see online reel all the time. Everybody's, I call it roses and sunshine, the roses and sunshine view of everybody's life, right? We don't put our
Mm-hmm.
crap out on Facebook, or most of us don't, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all we ever see is this positive, 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 and that gets really dangerous when we're looking at our own personal brand and our own personal self, because now we're starting to compare ourselves, right? And it becomes a game of, as they say, keeping up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think it gets down to being intentional about what you want to put out there, understanding that most people are putting out the best moments of their life at
Their
any given,
lives.
never
Yeah.
talking about, very
The
rarely
sad,
talking about failure,
the
right?
failures, the sorrows.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think, being intentional about when to post positive and when to post your failures. I think failures are a huge value in online because it brings real, authentic self, right? And this becomes offline too, right? Because now when you go to that business meeting, when you go meet up with friends, like, these are parts of your life that are important to you, that garnish different types of conversation, right? If I see somebody
Mm.
struggle, lost a family member, death, family death or something like that, it's going to force me to reach out to them in a different way than if I saw, that, they just had their highest bowling score that they've ever had, right?
Mm, mm,
So,
mm, mm, mm.
so the other thing I think is really important is, when we think about our personal brand, we need to have it match everywhere we're putting it out, right? So whether that be online, offline, doesn't matter whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, or, local meetup, or you're hanging out with your friends. Everybody should be seeing you the same way all the time, right?
Mm.
And so So that's where posting positive, posting those failures, and just being authentic, trying not to get too fluffy. I call it the fake excitement posts,
Yeah.
right? You see
Yeah.
those that they have 12 adjectives for to make something exciting, on this is the most totally awesome, bodacious, rad
Uh,
thing, right? And
well,
you're
is that a framework? Do you post it out there? Wow. Okay. Okay.
I see
Just to
people do that
grab
all the time.
attention.
Just to grab
Oh,
attention. They're trying to use these words to build emotional
hook
excitement,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
hook
To hook
you.
you. Mm-hmm.
And in reality, it's like, yeah, you did that
It's
thing. Great.
so dangerous. Like when I scroll, I'm like, dude, they cannot be having all of this highlights, the best highlights of their lives, like all the time. Like, don't they ever get sad or I don't know? Like their lives cannot be that walking like you're walking in the park every day, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that's where I think we need to be honest with who we are and what's going on with with our life, and that helps bring out what I call, what people call the authentic brand, the authentic
Mm,
you, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it's okay to not be okay,
Yeah.
and as long in your circles, in your friend groups, people will pick up on that and be there to pick you up. And that's, I think, the important piece we need to remember is, you know Facebook and social media and all that stuff is a very fake, um very fake reality of who people truly are and what's going on.
Yeah. And now that I now that you mention it, like I was just thinking social media, it's supposed to be social. It's where you connect with people, but now it's become where people show of course, again, intention is always the baseline, right? What are you putting out there? Why are you putting post A or reels A, B, C, right? And also if you are showing the not so nice or not so rainbows and sunshine part of yourselves, sometimes sometimes people also think that I don't want to show off, like, yeah, and I don't want to show off and say, why am I um capturing a video of myself crying over a breakup, for example. And uh, and you have a group of people who because they do not want to navigate all of this, they don't want to post their achievement because they don't want to be seen as bragging, and they also do not want to show that they choose to be the observers, the CCTVs. Yeah, we have that one, yeah, that one, two, three groups, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
One is the rose colored, one is the quite balanced, and one is the like, okay, I don't want to participate. Let me just be the consumer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess it is what it is. Like it's a balance. Like we can't have everybody be an observer. We can't have everybody be the ones posting all the beautiful highlights of their lives. Yeah. And being intentional, and also just and by that it translates to you being authentic, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think when we're authentic, it provides better opportunity to connect with people.
Oh, yes,
You know,
yes.
and,
Yeah.
and whether you're doing this to get a job, to show people your life, to be an influencer, to for your job, right? I spend all day on LinkedIn and Facebook, for marketing, and it's all of those things come back to, if I can connect on a personal level with the people I'm trying to connect with, more often than not, I can turn that into a conversation that is, builds business for me.
Mm-hmm. That potentially could bring revenue for you. Yeah. So, in the context of becoming an entrepreneur, is there like a time when these entrepreneurs should start building their brand, or they could start anytime?
So I think, from a personal brand perspective, you should start building that as soon
Way
as you're
back.
like I want to get out into the world, right?
Mm, mm,
My son is 22 and going to school for marketing, and he's like, yeah, I'm not quite to the classes where I can get an internship or do this or that. And I'm like, cool.
wow.
Well, let's start getting your LinkedIn profile put together. Let's start figuring out who you're going to be online and what you're going to put out to the world online. And he goes, yeah, but I got like another 2 years before I need to work. I'm like, no, no, no. You need to build
Build
that
now.
now so
Yeah.
that in 2 years you can just, put out the post and go, I graduated and I'm looking for my next opportunity. You know, who should I talk to and have the world flood to him, right? So it's like,
Mm,
there's never a bad time to start building your personal brand, and except waiting until it's too late.
yeah. Yeah. Start now. The best time to start is 20 years ago. The next second best time to start is today. It's now. Thank you, Adam. Okay, I'm gonna pivot to marketing. This is some of the questions that were posted in your profile. So, how can one build better leads from their website?
So it goes back to a lot of what we've been talking about, right? So number one is be authentic. Number two is tell
Okay.
people what you want them to do, right? So
Tell
if you
people
want,
what you want them to do, like a
yeah,
call to
so
action.
yeah,
Ah,
so if you want them to click on your contact form and fill out a contact form, tell them to do
tell
that.
them exactly that.
If you want
Please.
them to buy a product, like, tell them to buy the
Mm,
product. As
mm.
consumers, we don't want to have to put in any more effort than absolutely necessary to
We don't want to synthesize the whole thing. What is it that you want me to do here? You have all
absolutely.
this
So,
information.
yep.
Okay,
And
straight.
then and then be clear and consistent. Right? So, what you're posting on your website should match what's happening on social media, should match what you're talking to your customers about, all of that should be the same universal voice, and so those are my tips for that's how you convert a website, right? You get clear, you tell them what you want them to do, and you make sure your brand voice is consistent.
Consistent across all social media. And tell them exactly what you want them to do. Call me or go here, book a call, buy a product. Don't care as long as you put that. Okay. I'm going to use that for my own business as well. All right. So, what social media strategies actually generate business?
So a couple things, right? So number one is organic posting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a key part of the strategy. There's not really one thing that does it. There's kind of a conglomeration of things that do it, right? So you have to have content out in the world that shows your brand voice, shows who you are and what you do. You have to be engaged in other people's content, right? Nobody wants to as we consume content, nobody wants the, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? What they want is people that are genuinely engaged in what they're doing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is a great example of this. I post about once, maybe twice a week on LinkedIn, but I spend a half an hour every day going through my feed and commenting on posts. And that generates much more conversation and feedback and opportunities to have real conversations with people than my posts do. My posts are, that's the value add, right? And then number three, I think is, just lead with value. So many people, want to go and, they want to say, hey, look at me, I'm this awesome person. Instead of, instead of providing value to their audience, right? So, I do a lot of like 3 tips posts, and I think when I look at my engagement, people latch onto that because they're like, "Hey, I've tried that tip," and I ask the question at the end, right? This goes back to what we were just talking about. Tell them what you want them to do. I ask the question at the end: have you used one of these tips, or what is your tip to fill in the blank, right? Whatever the post was about. So, I think those are some strategies to kind of spread yourself out. Frankly, commenting, if you don't want to post a whole lot, just being engaged in comments will take you pretty far.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Yeah. basically putting do like a hook, and then get your, what is it that you're putting out there, so then people will know that you're actually engaging and you're not just, in your own la la land producing your content. Right. Okay. Understand. Why should one stop caring about likes and followers?
So likes and follows, our likes and followers are kind of from a business perspective, they're not spending any money with you, right?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
So, as a business owner, I'm in the business to make people's marketing better. But I also want to get paid for what I do. And so, being paid for my services and generating revenue is important. Likes and follows typically don't translate to sales, right? There's
Mm.
people that are, those silent observers, and maybe eventually they'll buy from you, but until they buy from you, I'd rather start conversations with people that are engaged buyers. So comments are huge, right? Anybody that's taking the time to comment, they're engaged with what you got going on. Anybody that is sharing and providing their own thoughts to your content, they're engaged with what you have going on. Right? It's your job at that point then to go engage them and find out what their level of engagement is. Are they a potential buyer? Are they a promoter of your brand and what you got going on? What does that look like, and how do you proceed forward with that at that point? So, likes and follows, they're just vanity metrics.
Oh, you dropped some truths there. Like, okay, I should stop caring about likes and follows. I don't really care, but you cannot help it when that is the
Absolutely.
lens that we all, people look at. Thank you for that, Adam. So, what is next for you?
Oh gosh, depends the day.
Any big projects, or
Serial entrepreneur here, right? There's always a new project going on. We are, we're in the process of shifting who we're focused on in our company as a customer base, and shifting our verticals a little bit and our offerings a little bit. So that's a project in itself, is just reimagining where we're going with things. But on the side of marketing, I also do influencer work for Cornhole, which is a game that we play here, kind of a yard game, so to speak. So that's always a side project as well. Selling, helping a few brands sell their wares, so to speak. So, so that's no real big projects, just a lot of small projects that all push us towards the direction we're going.
So, do you have a team, or do you work by yourself?
So I have a business partner, and then we have a team of consultants that we rely on when we need extra manpower. So, we do have a team, small, but we call ourselves the small but mighty misfit of bandits. Misfit of
Really
bandits.
lean, then.
Very lean, very lean. But technology has made that much easier, right? I don't have.
That's right.
Gone are the days where you have to fly on site for everything and spend a week here and a week there, right? I do everything from the comfort of my office, with my dog snoring at my feet, and
Lovely. That's a good way. Yeah, that's a good way
absolutely.
to work. Yeah. My cat is there on my bed. So okay, I'm gonna pivot again to a self-worth question. And the question for you, Adam, is: what are some of the common misconceptions about self-worth, and how can we debunk them to help others on their journey of self-discovery?
Yeah. So, number one, I think, it goes back to what we were talking about, right? Is the rose-colored glasses of the social media world, right? So, I think we need to realize that this is the best version of everybody, and we're not seeing all the dirty laundry. So when I think about self-worth, and I want to stop comparing myself to that image and go, where am I at in my life? Am I happy with that? And then if I'm not happy with that, what changes do I need to make to be happy with it? Right? That could be job, that could be, life, that could be friends. People oftentimes are afraid to get rid of friends that they've had around for a long time. But if those friends are detrimental to your emotional, mental well-being, personal health, then maybe it's time to trim the fat and shift yourself into a better friend group or a different friend group, right? I can't tell you, I, I'm not, I guess I'm not proud of this, but I'm not upset about it either. Over the years, I've dumped a whole boatload of friends that just weren't moving in the same direction that I was, and were pulling me back into a space where I wasn't moving forward. And so, um, you know, it's just kind of the reality of what it is, and hate to see them go. They are individually wonderful people, but it is what it is. So I think, self-worth comes down to valuing where you're at and understanding where you want to go.
And understanding who comes with you is gonna make or break your journey towards your destination that you're going.
Absolutely.
No, thank you so much for that. What is your heart's greatest wish?
Stay crazy busy like I am now.
It's better to be busy than not doing anything. Yeah.
Absolutely. I work hard and I play hard, and so my heart's desire is that I can continue to do that, because as much as I complain about being tired at the end of the week, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wow. Wow, you're really, yeah, meaning you're following your passion, and that's what we all should be doing, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That
It
is my
is what it
mantra.
is. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So often we get wrapped up in in what we can't control, and we let that live
Yes.
in our head, and it takes up space, and it takes up energy, and it takes up time. I very objectively look at situations. I go, what can I control and what can I control? And if there's things that are out of my control, then it is what it is. I can't change that. So I'm only going to focus on what I can control, or focus on what I need to do to recover from the things that I couldn't control.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. That's a reminder for me as well. Is there anything that keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well?
Business keeps me up at night. Being an entrepreneur, keeps me up at night. I love every minute of it, but for those of you that are not business owners, when you clock out at the end of the day, your day ends and you have nothing else to worry about except your personal life. When I clock out at the end of the day, I'm hoping that my clients are satisfied with everything that I've done, and that they're not going to email me at 10 o'clock to solve some problem for them.
Right. But again, if you're really aligned, truly aligned with what you love doing, it doesn't really matter,
No,
because yeah, make it like work is your playground, and your playground is your work.
absolutely.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Okay, Adam, last question. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Stop, pause, and focus on where you want to go and what you want to do, and then work backward from there and pick the steps that you need to take to get there.
So many levels. Just start and take it one step at a time.
Absolutely. Gotta have a goal, right? You gotta know where you're going, and then once you know where you're going, then you just gotta create the steps to get there.
Yeah, the steps will appear, even though we may not have all the steps. We will not have all the steps figured out. As long as you take the first step, the next one. Yeah. Wow, Adam. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been really insightful.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Once this airs, I will post and tag you, so you're free to share it across your social media as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Adam. You have a great day and a great life ahead.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.